Hi all, Harry here, hope you're all well. I've got a new video for you today and this will be my worst to best pseudo legendary ranking. Hope you will enjoy it. Number 8, Hydreigon. Hydreigon is the Unova pseudo legendary and it is pretty good all around, but unfortunately it is the worst overall, the pseudo legendary ranking. Hydreigon has the ability Levitate, which negates all ground type moves. However, they won't go damage it too much really. Hydreigon is a dark and dragon type. It has 5 weaknesses, and Fairy is a 4 type weakness, which hurts this Pokemon a lot. Ice, Fighting, Bug and Dragon are 2 times weaknesses. And Fighting and Dragon will mess this Pokemon up sideways if they are used on it. As Fighting and Dragon are common attacking types, and with this Pokemon's 90 base stat defense, it's not going to end well if a Fighting or Dragon type move is used on this Pokemon. If you're interested in the base stats of all these pseudo legendaries, they will be at the end of the video, so wait until the end of the video and then I will show you. However, Hydreigon does have some immunities, such as Ground and Psychic. It has a Ground immunity because of Levitate, and it has a Psychic because obviously Dark is immune to Psychic. So those are good for it as it buffs it up, but overall it has the most weaknesses rather than the most strengths. This Pokemon's competitive tier is UU, which is underused. So if you want to be good in competitive, Hydreigon is not the pseudo legendary to go for. Number 7, Goodra. Goodra is the Pokemon from the Kalos region, and it is quite good overall. It's got Sap Sipper, Gooey, and Hydration, which are all great abilities. However, Sap Sipper is the best ability. Why? Because it means that it is immune to grass type attacks, and not only that, it gets its HP back from it. And not only that, but with its attacks, with its weaknesses only being Ice, Fairy and Dragon, that means that even though they're 4 times weaknesses, they still can't be counted that good. Well, Fairy cannot be, but with Dragon and Ice, this Pokemon doesn't struggle really with Dragon, as Dragon is super effective against Dragon. However, it still has a lot of glaring weaknesses, such as those 3 types being 4 times weaknesses, and it only resisting a chunk of others and being neutral to some others. Goodra's competitive is RU, which is rarely used. If you want to use a Goodra in competitive, it's going to have to get a buff to some of its base stats, which again will be mentioned at the end of the video. But however, if Goodra needs to be better to have those to be good in competitive and to be better higher up in this. Number 6, Kommo-o. Kommo-o is the newest pseudo legendary in this list, as it's just come from Alola, Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, which were the latest games. And I have to say, I'm pretty impressed with this new pseudo legendary. However, it is in the higher part of the list, as it is number 6. But with some buffs to its base stats, which I will mention at the end of the video, it could climb higher up in this list. Alright, let's start off with its weaknesses. It has a 4-time weakness to Fairy, as it is a Fighting Dragon type. This is bad for it, as Fairy is immune to Dragon, and obviously resisting the fighting. So you're going to have a hard time with Fairy types, as in most of these pseudo legendaries. Ice, Flying, Psychic and Dragon are 2 times weaknesses. Dragon we've mentioned before, but Psychic and Flying are super effective against its fighting type, which is bad for Komodo, basically. In its totem battle, it can mess you up if you do not have a fairy or an ice type on your team. Even with its flying and psychic weakness and dragon weakness, it can still mess up teams, as obviously dragon is super effective against dragon, and it's only, it's only a 2 times weakness, as it's only half of its type fighting. If you want to use Komodo in competitive, it is UU, which is underused. So if you want to use Komodo in competitive, again, you're going to need a buff to its stats, or throw a choice scarf on it, or make sure that it can survive a couple of hits, because it does have some glaring weaknesses, such as fairy, and some normal weaknesses that it wouldn't have, like flying and psychic, if it wasn't part fighting. However, its fighting type doesn't always give it a disadvantage, and it is a good pseudo legendary that we have all been waiting for. Number 5, Salamence. Salamence is a pseudo legendary from the Hoenn region. The other one I will be mentioning later in the list. But first, Salamence. Salamence is a great dragon flying pseudo legendary type. However, it does have some glaring weaknesses, like the 4 times weakness to ice. There is also weakness to rock, dragon and fairy, which are 2 times weaknesses, and even with Salamance's abilities, Intimidate and Moxie respectively, they're still not going to help with these types of weaknesses that I've mentioned. One is that rock and fairy and ice are basically special attacks, so Intimidate isn't going to help with that. However, if Salamence can defeat a Pokemon and get its Moxie boost, then it will start shredding through teams, especially if it has its Mega on. I still need to check. If it has its Mega on, I still need to check if it has Moxie though. There is also an immunity to ground, which helps Salamence immensely, as obviously there will be another attacking type that could hurt Salamence there if it wasn't flying. Salamence in competitive is OU, which is overused, and that's just its normal type. So even with its Mega, I think its Mega is in Ubers, which is way through the roof. That means its Mega is on the playing field with Mewtwo. Salamence is a great Pokemon to use competitive or in a normal play. Number 4, Tyranitar. Tyranitar is the pseudo-legendary from the Johto region, and it is a rock-dark type. Tyranitar is a great Pokemon, even though it has a 4 times weakness to fighting, which does hinder it, and it also has 2 times weaknesses to grass, water, ground, bug, steel, and fairy. However, even though it might have the most weaknesses, I also think it makes up for those with the best strengths, as it also resists the same number but different types. Also, it has an immunity to Psychic, and Psychic back in Gen 2 was the most OP type ever. And with Tyranitar resisting that, it makes it a great pseudo-legendary, as not only it can combat that, but it can shred through others, as well as having a Mega. I mean, if you get a Mega and you were released in Gen 2, and now it's Gen 7, I guess the developers have their eye on that Pokemon and want to just show it love. Tyranitar has competitive use in OU, which is overused. So you can see that it will be used in a lot of competitive teams, even though it's not Dragon, which is the most used type for pseudo legendary, as you have probably guessed or probably know. So if you are going into competitive, then definitely give Tyranitar a chance. Number 3, Metagross. Metagross is the other pseudo-legendary from the Hoenn region, like Salamence. However, I rank Metagross higher on this list because of how many strengths it has. It may be weak to Fire, Ground, Ghost and Dark type, but those are only 2 times weaknesses. It does not have a 4-time weakness, which shows you how strong this Pokemon is. It also resists 8 types. Yes, 8. Which gives it a buff. And also, even though Metagross is fairly heavy, it can have an ability of Light Body, which makes it lighter, so moves like Grass and that will give it less damage. Also, please think about getting one in a playthrough, because even though it takes long, because it has a catch rate of like 0.4%, it is definitely worth trying to get one, as I got one recently, and now it is a Metagross, and it is basically blasting through team compositions like nothing. Especially in the newest games, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, it basically walled fairy types, even though it does not have its Mega Evolution. Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, probably the best games to get it in, as it is, or the easiest to get, as others are end of game, post game gifts. Right, enough about trying to get it. Now, if you want to use Metagross in competitive, it is UU, which is underused, but its Mega is higher, obviously, because it's a Mega and it gets a lot of buff to its stats, which is what, well, Metagross didn't even need those, but in competitive, with its Mega, it just shot through the roof, and I don't want to see one when I'm facing one in competitive. Alright, now I know Gen 1 is going to hate me for this, but number 2 is Dragonite, and this is a high placement. So you should be proud of Dragonite, all you Dragonite lovers out there. Right, Dragonite is the pseudo-legendary from the Kanto region, the first region, we visit in our Pokemon games. It has abilities like Inner Focus and Multi-Scale. Inner Focus means no flinching, so try as you might, you cannot flinch this monster. Also, it has Multi-Scale, which means if you have it has no damage from some moves when its HP is full. Also, it is just a monster. Okay, let's get down to its weaknesses. It has a 4 times weakness to ice, unfortunately, which is going to hinder Dragonite, but almost every Pokemon on this list is weak to ice. It has 2 times weakness to Rock, Dragon, and Fairy, and unfortunately, that means it's also weak to the ever-prevalent Stealth Rock, like Salamence. However, if this Pokemon can survive that, it can tear through teams. If you have ever played Gold, Silver, or Heart Gold, Soul Silver, or any of the Kanto games too, you should be terrified going up against Lance. I've been up against Lance, and he can literally, that Dragonite can literally go through your team like a knife through butter. It doesn't only have 1 in some games too. Anyway, Dragonite in competitive is OU, which is overused, which is very, very good, and stands out all that time, even up to Gen 7. If you're in OU and you started in Gen 1 up to Gen 7, that just tells me you are a monster of a Pokemon and a great pseudo-legendary. I really don't want to face Lance again with those Dragonites. And number 1 is Garchomp. I'm sure a lot of you, if you've watched some strongest Pokemon videos in the past, saw this coming. However, Garchomp is the best, in my opinion, and not only my opinion, but stats and competitive prowess too. It is a Dragon Ground type Pokemon, and is the Gen 4 Pseudo Legendary type. Gen 4 is my favourite. It makes me so proud that Dragonite is still top in the Pseudo Legendary rankings. It has the ability Rough Skin, which means that if you attack it directly, then you're taking damage with you. One of its weaknesses is Dragon. And Dragon is a common physical attacking type. So, if you're going against Dragon and Dragon, if you're going against Dragon and Dragon, chances are Garchomp will win. Well, unless you're facing another Garchomp. And I just wanted to say, Garchomp with a Life Orb can cause more damage than a regular Mega Garchomp. I mean, think how big that is. That regular Pokemon causes more damage than the Mega Pokemon. That just tells you that it's an unbelievably strong Pokemon. Anyway, let's get down to its weaknesses. It has a 4 times weakness to Ice, like most dragons, and it has 2 times weakness to Dragon and Fairy. However, it has immunity to Electric, as it is part Ground type. However, even with these weaknesses, I think Garchomp makes up with it for having the most strengths. I mean, in competitive, it is overused, and it is on the same rank as its Mega in competitive. So, and this just tells that Garchomp is so strong. I used a Garchomp in my Pokemon X version, and I named it Terra as a Gibble. And it blew through the Lumiose Gym, and it got a couple of levels, and it was goodbye by that time, and it just filled the opposition with dread, I felt, and I felt Terra was a great name for a Garchomp. If you're using it in competitive, I feel so bad for some people who have to go up against it, as Garchomp is the best pseudo-legendary, in my opinion, in the stats, in competitive use. Garchomp is a beast. Okay, now it's time for the base stats of these Pokemon. First up is Hydreigon, obviously. Hydreigon has a HP of 92, a defense and special defense stat of 90, which, as I mentioned, was bad for its weaknesses. A good attack, though, of 105, and a good special attack of 125. Also, it's quite good speed of 98, which isn't going to be best for speeding a lot of these Pokemon. Okay, up next is Goodra. Okay, Goodra has a HP of 90, which is quite good, but not the best, obviously. Attack 100, defense 70, which is really bad for a pseudo-legendary. Special attack 110, which is good. Special defense 150, which is amazing. And a speed of 80. Okay. Next up is Salamence. Salamence has a HP of 95, attack 135, defense 80, special defense 110, and defense 80, speed 100.